Rents are exploding everywhere, yet hidden across the United Kingdom are towns where housing is incredibly cheap. Let us uncover these fascinating places and the dramatic historical crashes that left their property markets frozen in time, baffling the locals who live there today. Place 10. Aberdeen. For decades, this beautiful granite city was the glittering crown jewel of the North Sea energy boom. It was an undisputed oil capital where wealth flowed like the dark crude extracted off its stormy coast. High-flying executives flooded the local market, driving property values into the stratosphere and turning this Scottish stronghold into a city that legitimately rivaled London in terms of sheer living costs. But economic tides always turn. As global shifts forced major oil companies to scale back, a massive exodus of well-paid professionals followed. The sudden withdrawal left behind an eerie legacy of beautiful, high-end apartments and spacious family homes sitting completely empty. This dramatic oversupply triggered a brutal correction in the housing market, pulling prices down from their historic highs to levels that seem almost fictional today. Now the city offers an incredible standard of living for a fraction of its former cost. Renters can find themselves in premium properties without the premium price tag. The average rent here has settled at roughly £746 per month. For a place with such grand architecture, rich maritime heritage, and world-class amenities built during its golden age, it is a staggering bargain. The city is currently reinventing itself, but the shadows of the oil barons still linger in the incredibly affordable leases available right now. Place 9. Carlisle. Often described as the Great Border City, this ancient settlement stands proudly as the ultimate English frontier just before the land gives way to Scotland. It is a place steeped in spectacular history, guarded by a magnificent fortress and surrounded by some of the most dramatic, sweeping landscapes the country has to offer. You might expect a city with such striking beauty and remarkable safety records to be entirely unaffordable, yet it remains one of the best-kept secrets for budget-conscious living. The secret to its affordability lies in its sheer geographical isolation. Carlisle exists almost as an island within the sprawling rural beauty of Cumbria. It has historically missed out on the explosive influx of modern, high-paying tech and finance industries that have drastically inflated housing markets elsewhere. Without those massive corporate salaries driving up fierce competition for every available home, the local housing demand has remained quietly stagnant for years. This lack of economic pressure means that historic stone houses and comfortable modern flats are incredibly accessible to ordinary working people. If you want to experience the quiet romance of this northern outpost, you will find that the average rent sits at roughly £791 a month. It is a sanctuary for those who value peace, community, and heritage over the frantic, expensive hustle of the deeply industrialized modern metropolis. Place 8. Hull. To understand the incredibly low cost of housing in this resilient eastern port, you must first understand the ocean that shaped it. Generations ago, this was a roaring maritime titan, driven by a fiercely proud community built entirely around the monumental success of the British fishing industry. The docks were loud, busy, and endlessly profitable. However, the sweeping cod wars and the sudden, devastating collapse of the commercial fishing fleets brought that golden era to a grinding halt. The local economy suffered a traumatic blow from which it has spent decades slowly trying to recover. Beyond its economic scars, there is a fundamental geographical truth keeping prices grounded. Hull sits firmly at the very end of the line. It is a terminal destination on the road network, meaning absolutely no one drives through it by accident on their way to another major city. This deep logistical isolation naturally shields the local property market from the aggressive, overheated inflation seen in more connected transit hubs. There is no transient population driving up fierce bidding wars. As a result, the community has preserved a deeply rooted, authentic culture, alongside housing costs that feel trapped in a bygone decade. The average rent here hovers comfortably in the range of £674. It remains an endlessly fascinating, intensely proud maritime city that offers unmatched financial breathing room for anyone willing to make it their final destination. Place 7, Middlesbrough. This resilient northern powerhouse was famously baptized as Ironopolis. It was quite literally forged in fire, rapidly expanding from a modest farm into a roaring industrial titan almost overnight. Entire neighborhoods stretching for miles were hastily built to provide immediate shelter for the tens of thousands of hard-working men and women who migrated here to operate the legendary blast furnaces. For over a century, the local steelworks built the world, from massive bridges connecting distant continents to the very infrastructure of modern civilization. But as the millennium turned, the fires began to extinguish. The agonizing, slow-motion collapse of heavy manufacturing and the eventual closure of those iconic steel plants hollowed out the local economy. What remained in the aftermath was a staggering, almost unfathomable surplus of traditional terraced houses. These incredibly sturdy working-class homes were left standing by the thousands, long after the massive workforce they were built for had dwindled away. The sheer volume of this available housing stock drastically outpaces the modern population demand. This mathematical reality has effectively anchored property values to the floor. Today, the average rent in this historically mighty town rests at a very modest £674. It stands as a profound testament to industrial heritage, offering impossibly cheap roofs over the heads of a new generation looking for a fresh, affordable start. Place 6, Sunderland. Perched dramatically along a sweeping, rugged coastline, this maritime city boasts coastal beauty that would command premium waterfront prices almost anywhere else in the world. Yet the story of this fierce northern community is one of unimaginable industrial loss. For generations, this was a global powerhouse of shipbuilding and deep coal mining. The docks echoed with the relentless hammering of steel, and the local wealth was built entirely on the backs of men pulling black gold from beneath the ocean floor. When the shipyards fell silent and the colossal mining pits were permanently sealed off, the immense wealth that built the city evaporated almost overnight. What remained was a vast, sprawling ocean of modest, traditional working-class homes built to house that massive army of heavy laborers. Today, this astonishing excess of incredibly cheap, older housing stock exerts a brutal, undeniable gravitational pull on the entire local property market. The sheer volume of these charming, historic properties heavily dilutes any potential for rapid price inflation. Because there are simply more houses than there are highly paid jobs to fill them, the cost of living has been essentially locked in a time capsule. You can secure a home here for an average rent of exactly £661. It is a striking coastal bargain born entirely from the ashes of a vanished industrial empire, offering incredible seaside value to those who look closely. Place 5, Burnley. Nestled deep within a stunning, wind-swept valley, this proud northern town was once the undisputed weaving capital of the world. During the explosive peak of the global cotton trade, the sky was thick with the smoke of countless towering mill chimneys. To shelter the endless stream of weavers working the deafening looms, the town constructed thousands upon thousands of beautiful small stone terraced houses. These iconic, sturdy two-bedroom properties lined the steep, cobbled streets in perfectly uniform rows, creating a unique and breathtaking architectural heritage that still defines the landscape today. However, when the global textile industry shifted overseas, the roaring mills were abruptly abandoned. The beating heart of the local economy was completely ripped out. The thousands of charming stone cottages designed for a bustling workforce suddenly found themselves largely vacant. The supply of these historic terraced homes absolutely crushed the dwindling local demand. Furthermore, the modern economy that eventually replaced the cotton giants relies heavily on lower-wage sectors, naturally preventing any significant upward pressure on the cost of living. Consequently, this remarkable valley remains one of the most affordable places to settle in the entire country. The average rent here barely reaches £652 a month. It is a genuine architectural time capsule where you can comfortably live inside a piece of world-changing history for practically nothing. Place 4. Redcar. Wandering along the magnificent, sandy beaches of this quiet coastal retreat, it is incredibly difficult to comprehend the sheer scale of the economic trauma that recently shook its foundations. For decades, the horizon was dominated by the awesome, towering blast furnaces of one of the largest steel works in Europe. It was the absolute lifeblood of the community, providing generations of secure, well-paid livelihoods. But in the year 2015, the unimaginable happened. An apocalyptic, sudden collapse of the steel plant sent absolute shockwaves through the region. The catastrophic, instantaneous loss of thousands of specialized jobs plunged the town into severe, localized unemployment almost overnight. The devastating psychological and financial blow of that monumental closure instantly frightened away national property investors and ambitious developers. While other picturesque seaside towns across the country experienced wild waves of expensive gentrification, this beautiful coastal market was forcefully frozen in time by pure economic shock. The sudden halt in upward mobility left behind a hauntingly beautiful, deeply resilient community with property prices that simply refuse to climb. Those willing to look past the shadows of the old furnaces will find rents dropping to an astonishing £634. It offers an incredibly rare, hyper-affordable coastal lifestyle born from a profoundly dramatic and painfully recent industrial heartbreak. Place 3. Kilmarnock. Deep in the heart of the Scottish lowlands lies a town that once produced the very fabric and spirit of the British Empire. For over a century, this bustling community was the undisputed global capital of fine carpet manufacturing and the proud, historic home of the legendary Johnnie Walker whiskey empire. The local economy was incredibly robust, fueled by massive, roaring factories that employed thousands of dedicated men and women across multiple generations. However, the relentless march of globalization eventually caught up with this industrious powerhouse. One by one, the massive carpet looms were silenced, and in a devastating final blow, the historic whiskey bottling plants were permanently shuttered and relocated. The sudden, absolute closure of these gigantic industrial pillars left behind a vast, echoing post-industrial void. The local economy suffered a practically fatal strike, creating an overwhelming surplus of perfectly good, comfortable family homes with absolutely no local workforce left to fill them. Yet, from this profound economic heartbreak emerges an unbelievable modern opportunity. Because the town is deeply connected by road and rail, it has secretly transformed into an absolute paradise for incredibly cheap housing, especially for clever professionals who are entirely willing to make the daily commute into the booming, expensive metropolis of Glasgow. By simply choosing to live within this incredibly resilient, historic community, residents can secure a beautiful home for a remarkably low average monthly rent of just £602. It is an astonishingly clever geographical hack for anyone looking to escape the brutal urban inflation of the major Scottish cities. Place 2. Hartlepool. When you imagine waking up to the sound of crashing waves and stepping out to breathe the fresh, salty air of the British coastline, you usually expect to pay a massive, painful premium. In almost every corner of the southern coast, wealthy investors and remote workers have violently gentrified seaside towns, pricing out the very people who were born there. But this incredibly proud, historic maritime enclave located on the forgotten northern shores has completely bypassed that aggressive, wealthy wave. The secret to its remarkably frozen property market is a profound, lingering economic stagnation combined with a severe lack of modern infrastructure. It is entirely disconnected from the ultra-fast, high-speed railway networks that pump wealthy commuters out of London and into the provinces. Because the town is geographically isolated from the major corporate wealth arteries, the fierce, competitive gentrification that normally infects beautiful coastal locations simply never arrived here. You will find absolutely no wealthy vacation home hoarders driving up the local taxes. Instead, you discover an authentic, gritty, and fiercely resilient local culture surrounded by gorgeous marinas and sweeping beaches. It is one of the very last places where you can genuinely experience the quiet beauty of a true seaside life without suffering the brutal inflationary tax of the major southern cities. The sheer lack of corporate interest means the local housing market has plummeted to an absolutely unbelievable level. The average rent here is a staggering £559 per month. It is a genuine, undiscovered northern coastal sanctuary. Place 1. Dumfries. We have finally arrived at the absolute rock bottom of the rental market, a place where the cost of living feels entirely disconnected from modern reality. Nestled deeply within the incredibly lush, rolling landscapes of southern Scotland, this gorgeous historic market town offers a breathtakingly beautiful environment. Yet, it holds the title of the cheapest place to rent in the entire nation. The secret behind this ultimate, unbelievable bargain is its condition of extreme, unapologetic rural isolation. It is situated incredibly far away from the massive, booming financial centres of Edinburgh, Glasgow, or Manchester. There are absolutely no towering corporate headquarters, no booming tech sectors, and no heavy modern industries to anchor a high-paying professional class. Because the local economy relies heavily on traditional agriculture and quiet local services, the ambitious youth consistently pack their bags and migrate away in search of fast-paced, lucrative corporate careers in the major cities. This continuous generational brain drain leaves behind a massive, silent void of perfectly good, highly desirable family homes and quaint stone cottages. With practically zero inward migration and a rapidly aging population, the housing supply absolutely dominates the incredibly weak local demand. This quiet, rural dynamic has completely broken the housing market in the best possible way for renters. You can live surrounded by some of the most spectacular, deeply romantic Scottish scenery for an absolute, undisputed bargain of just £535 every single month. It is the ultimate escape from the modern rat race. Could you ever leave the big city behind to live in one of these deeply historic, affordable towns? Let me know your favorite location in the comments below. If you loved this deep dive into the hidden housing market, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories.